The shadow descends. Birth of a monster. In the heart of the night, where shadows stretch and the air grows thick with foreboding, a tale begins. A tale of darkness, of a monster born from the depths of despair. Mexico City. A sprawling metropolis. A city that never sleeps, where the pulse of life beats strong and relentless. Amidst the chaos and the clamor, stories unfold, some bright and hopeful, others dark and sinister. A place of vibrant life, but also lurking shadows. In the bustling markets and crowded streets, life thrives, yet in the shadowy corners, secrets fester. It is a city of contrasts, where light and dark coexist. In this city, on December 27, 1957, a monster was born. A birth like any other, yet destined to leave a mark of terror. The city would never be the same. Her name was Juana Barraza, a name that would one day be etched in infamy. A seemingly innocent child with a future shrouded in darkness. Little is known of her early life. A life that began in the shadows, with whispers of neglect and hardship. A childhood that would shape the monster she would become. A life shrouded in darkness. The corridors of her past are dimly lit, filled with echoes of pain and suffering. A young girl, lost in a world that offered little kindness. Whispers of a troubled childhood. Stories of a girl who faced more than her share of hardships. A life marked by neglect, where the seeds of darkness were sown early. A path leading towards darkness. Each step she took, each choice she made, led her further into the shadows. A journey that would culminate in terror. But the world would come to know her name. A name that would be splashed across headlines, whispered in fear, and remembered in infamy. Know it as a name whispered in fear. Juana Barraza, a name that would strike terror into the hearts of many. A name that would become synonymous with death. The name of a killer who preyed on the vulnerable, leaving a trail of fear and death in her wake. A name that would haunt the city. Juana Barraza would become La Mataviejitas, the little old lady killer. A moniker that would forever be associated with her heinous acts. A monster born from the shadows, leaving a legacy of terror. The prey, vulnerable and alone. Her prey, the elderly women of Mexico City, alone and vulnerable. Easy targets for a heart filled with darkness. These women, often widows, lived quiet lives, their days filled with routine. Unaware of the evil approaching, they opened their doors to strangers, trusting souls, never suspecting the horror that awaited. Their kindness would be their downfall, their trust, a weapon in the hands of a monster. Whispers of terror. The killings begin. It started subtly. A whisper of fear in the wind. 1998. The first body was discovered. An elderly woman, lifeless in her home. Signs of a struggle. Strangled. Valuables missing. The police investigated. They searched for answers. But the killer vanished like smoke. Little did they know, it was only the beginning. The start of a reign of terror. The modus operandi. A gruesome signature. As the bodies mounted, a pattern emerged. A chilling modus operandi, a signature of brutality. The victims were always elderly women, living alone, often befriended by the killer before their deaths. Strangulation was the preferred method, brutal and personal, the life squeezed out of them. Sometimes the killer used other methods, bludgeoning, stabbing, each murder more horrific than the last. Section 5. A city gripped by fear. Panic in the streets. The bustling metropolis of Mexico City, usually vibrant and full of life, was now shrouded in an atmosphere of dread and uncertainty. Fear spread through Mexico City like a virus. It was palpable, seeping into every corner, every alleyway, and every home. The once lively streets were now filled with anxious faces, each person wary of the unknown threat lurking in the shadows. Every shadow held a potential killer. The darkness became a breeding ground for paranoia, with every flicker of movement sending shivers down the spines of the city's residents. Every knock at the door, a threat. The simple act of answering the door became a moment of sheer terror, as the fear of the unknown gripped the hearts of many. The elderly, once symbols of wisdom and respect, became prisoners in their own homes. They were the most vulnerable, and the fear of becoming the next victim of La Mata Viejitas kept them isolated and afraid. Living in terror of La Mata Viejitas, the police were baffled. Despite their best efforts, the authorities were unable to catch the elusive killer, who seemed to vanish without a trace after each heinous act. The killer was a phantom, slipping through their grasp, leaving a trail of bodies in their wake. Each crime scene painted a grim picture of the terror that had taken hold of the city. The city held its breath, waiting. The tension was thick, and the sense of impending doom was almost tangible. People moved through their days with a sense of foreboding, unsure of when the next strike would come, wondering when the monster would strike again. The fear was unrelenting, and the question on everyone's mind was not if, but when the terror would return to claim another victim. Section 6. The Breakthrough. A witness emerges. Years passed. The killings continued. Hope began to dwindle. But then, a glimmer in the darkness. A witness came forward. A woman who had seen someone leaving the home of the latest victim. A woman dressed as a nurse. The police finally had a lead. A description. A chance to put a face to the nightmare. The hunt was on. The city watched, hoping that justice would finally be served. Section 7. Unmasking the Monster. The Arrest. January 25, 2006. A day forever etched in the memory of Mexico City. The day the killing stopped. Juana Barraza was apprehended, caught fleeing the scene of her latest crime. The mask of normalcy stripped away. The news spread like wildfire, relief mixed with disbelief. The little old lady killer had a face, and it was chillingly ordinary. The city exhaled. The nightmare, for now, was over. But the scars ran deep. Ayamsa. Section 8. The Trial. Justice and Confession. The trial was a media sensation. The world watched as Juana Barraza faced justice. Her crimes laid bare for all to see. The evidence was overwhelming: DNA, witness testimony, and then a confession, chilling in its detail. Barraza claimed she killed out of anger, resentment towards her own mother, a twisted form of revenge. But many believed it was more than that. A thirst for power, a pleasure in the suffering of others, the true face of evil. Section 9. Sentenced to oblivion, 759 years. In 2008, the verdict came: guilty. The sentence, 759 years. A life for a life, many times over. Juana Barraza, the little old lady killer, would spend the rest of her days behind bars, haunted by the ghosts of her victims. Justice had been served. But could it ever truly heal the wounds she had inflicted? The city, forever marked by her crimes, struggled to move on. The shadow of La Mata Viejitas still lingered. Section 10. Scars on a City. The Enduring Legacy of Terror. The case of Juana Barraza sent shockwaves through Mexico and the world. Her actions were not just crimes. They were a brutal assault on the very fabric of society. It exposed a darkness that few could have imagined. The fear she instilled was palpable, a chilling reminder of the evil that can reside within. The elderly, once revered, now lived with a heightened sense of vulnerability. Their trust shattered, their peace stolen. The community, once tight-knit, now looked over their shoulders, wary of every stranger. Juana Barraza may be gone, but her legacy of terror lives on. The scars she left behind are not just physical, but deeply emotional, etched into the hearts of those who lived through her reign of terror. A reminder of the evil that lurks in the shadows. Her story serves as a grim warning, a testament to the fragility of safety and the ever-present threat of malevolence. And the question remains, how many more monsters walk among us, hidden in plain sight, waiting to unleash their own brand of horror? The legacy of Juana Barraza is a stark reminder that vigilance is essential, and that the battle against fear and violence is never truly